Okay, for this exercise, we're learning to turn off the low back muscles, this lumbar erector spinae, where they tend to be chronically tight, trying to create some stability in that low back when we're doing things like back squats or deadlifts, things like that, right? So in this drill, we're learning to finally start to lengthen those tissues again and getting them to turn off a little bit, when a lot of times in exercise we're using them too much to create stability in the spine instead of the diaphragm and the rib cage in conjunction with that low back musculature there, right? So we're going to learn to not only get these to start to relax a little bit so that we can feel better after training, but we're also going to learn what it feels like to actually use the diaphragm to pressurize and create some stability in that low back. So for this, we're going to be in this quadruped position. First thing we're going to do is just work on creating an arch in that low back. So we're getting some flexion back into our low back, staying out of this hyperextended position in which we tend to live in. So we're going to do the exact opposite. We're getting some length in the erector spinae around the lumbar spine. We're thinking about kind of tucking our pelvis underneath us, bringing our rib cage towards our pelvis. And once we kind of master this position where we can move in and out of that, which we can do for reps, and again, just trying to relax everything else that's not involved and start to get some length through that low back finally. And we want most of the motion coming from here. So try to limit your head from flexing down or the upper rib cage from coming down with it. And instead, try to focus most of that from that low back. All right, from here, this is where we're learning to kind of pressurize again and bring the diaphragm back into play. It's in the same thing, quadruped position. We're going to do that same tuck. Now from here, we're going to think about breathing in forcefully through the nose and feel the diaphragm move and descend down into the pelvic inlet there, where we can feel our back starting to expand, our front of our stomach starting to expand, and our sides just expanding with air and space as we do that. So we tuck into that position, and then we bring the diaphragm down, and we pressurize that entire abdominal area. And I can feel my abdominal and my low back on the sides and in the back pushing into my belt. So if you wanted to even belt this with a weightlifting belt, that could be helpful for feeling the sensation when you use the diaphragm to pull down and take up that space and pressurize that low back. And I can feel that happening in 360 degrees, and that's what we're looking for. So again, we're in this position. We're using the diaphragm to descend and pressurize. And then from here, as you breathe out, you want to let the breath kind of fall out of your mouth, but we're now going to actively contract the core and think about bringing that rib cage down towards your pelvis. We're going to really do some extra. We're going to get as much length in that low back as we can. So I did a breath in through the nose. Now from here, we're going to exhale and we're going to crunch. Now from this position, we hold it. We then pressurize again, breath in through the nose. And then exhale and crunch. Trying to get further and further each time with that crunch, and then maintaining that new position, that new lengthened curve of the low back, and then pressurizing from there with the diaphragm. And each time you should feel how you can fill that space up with the diaphragm as you breathe in, right? You should feel your belt kind of expanding each time, and while we maintain that low back arch, okay? So this is great progressions here to start learning to turn those extensors off, and then start bringing that diaphragm back into play to pressurize and create stability in that low back. Give it a shot.